The year was 697 BC, a time of great change and uncertainty in the ancient world. A young boy, barely a teenager, ascended the throne of Judah. This was no ordinary boy, but a child thrust into the immense responsibility of kingship. His name was Manasseh, and he was only 12 years old. The weight of the crown rested heavily on his young head, a burden few could comprehend. His father, King Hezekiah, had been a beacon of righteousness, a leader who had led Judah back to the worship of Yahweh. Hezekiah's reign was marked by religious reforms and a return to the covenant. But Manasseh's reign would tell a different story, a tragic tale of a king seduced by darkness, a kingdom plunged into despair. The once bright future of Judah began to dim under his rule. History remembers Manasseh as the king who led Judah astray, who turned his back on the covenant, who plunged his nation into idolatry and bloodshed. Temples once dedicated to Yahweh were now filled with idols and false gods. But how did a young boy, raised in the shadow of a righteous king, stray so far from the path of his father? What forces could have driven him to such a drastic departure from his upbringing? Perhaps the weight of the crown proved too heavy for such young shoulders. The immense pressure and expectations may have overwhelmed him, leading him to seek solace in the wrong places. Perhaps the advisors of his youth whispered poisonous counsel in his ear, urging him to embrace the old ways, the ways of power and pleasure. These advisors, seeking their own gain, may have led him astray. Or perhaps, as some scholars suggest, Manasseh's reign was a reaction to the strict reforms of his father, a yearning for the old freedoms, however misguided. The young king might have seen his father's reforms as too restrictive and sought to break free. Whatever the reason, Manasseh's reign began a descent into darkness, a period of spiritual decline that would leave an indelible mark on the history of Judah. His actions set the stage for future turmoil and conflict, casting a long shadow over the kingdom. Manasseh's reign was a stark reversal of his father's reforms. His father Hezekiah had worked tirelessly to cleanse Judah of its idolatrous practices. Hezekiah had torn down the high places, smashed the idols, and purged the land of pagan influences. His efforts were aimed at restoring the worship of Yahweh and bringing the people back to their spiritual roots. Manasseh, in a tragic act of defiance, rebuilt them. He not only restored the high places, but also encouraged the people to return to their old ways, undoing all the good his father had accomplished. He erected altars to Baal, the Canaanite god of fertility, and Asherah, the goddess of fertility and motherhood. These deities were worshipped with rituals that were abhorrent to the followers of Yahweh. These towering structures, once symbols of pagan worship, now cast long shadows over Jerusalem, a constant reminder of the king's apostasy. The spiritual landscape of the city was forever altered, but Manasseh didn't stop there. His ambition to integrate foreign deities into Judah's religious practices knew no bounds. He went further, introducing Assyrian deities into the sacred spaces of Jerusalem, a move that must have horrified the faithful. The Assyrian gods, with their foreign rituals and symbols, were now part of Judah's religious fabric. He embraced the worship of the stars, the celestial bodies that the Assyrians believed held sway over human destiny. This practice was a direct affront to the monotheistic beliefs of the people of Judah. Incense filled the air, a pungent offering to these foreign gods, a stench in the nostrils of Yahweh. The sacred spaces of Jerusalem were now tainted with the smoke of idolatry. Manasseh, seduced by the allure of the exotic and the forbidden, had opened the gates of Judah to a pantheon of false gods, a decision that would have devastating consequences for his kingdom. His actions set the stage for a spiritual crisis that would haunt Judah for generations to come. Manasseh's thirst for power led him down dark paths into the realms of sorcery and divination. He sought knowledge from forbidden sources, consulted with mediums and spiritists, those who claimed to pierce the veil between the living and the dead. He yearned to know the future, to unlock the secrets hidden within the stars, to control the forces that governed human destiny. This fascination with the occult, with the manipulation of spiritual forces, led him to embrace practices that were anathema to Yahweh. Child sacrifice, the most abhorrent of these practices, became a gruesome reality in Jerusalem. Innocent blood was spilled on the altars of Moloch, a horrific offering to appease the insatiable hunger of a pagan deity. The cries of the innocent, a heart-wrenching symphony of despair, rose from the valley of Hinnom, a chilling testament to the depths of Manasseh's depravity. The prophets of Yahweh, those fiery voices of truth, could not remain silent in the face of such wickedness. They were compelled by a divine mandate to speak out, to confront the darkness that had taken root in the heart of their people. They emerged from the shadows, their voices echoing through the streets of Jerusalem, their words like thunderclaps in the face of Manasseh's apostasy. Their message was clear and unwavering, a call to repentance and a return to the ways of righteousness. They warned him of the consequences of his actions, of the wrath that would surely follow. They spoke of the impending doom that awaited the kingdom if it continued down this path of idolatry and sin. They reminded him of the covenant, of Yahweh's unwavering love for his chosen people, and of the terrible price that awaited those who strayed from his path. They recounted the stories of old of how Yahweh had delivered their ancestors and blessed them abundantly, but Manasseh, blinded by his own ambition and seduced by the whispers of darkness, paid no heed to their warnings. He dismissed their words as the ravings of madmen, choosing instead to follow his own twisted desires. He silenced their voices, persecuting the prophets, driving them into hiding or putting them to death. The land was filled with the cries of the righteous, but their pleas fell on deaf ears. The blood of the righteous mingled with the blood of the innocent, a gruesome stain on the soul of Judah. The once proud nation was now a land of sorrow and despair, its people mourning the loss of their spiritual leaders. Manasseh, in his arrogance and folly, had shut his ears to the voice of God, choosing instead to listen to the seductive whispers of the serpent. His heart was hardened, and his fate was sealed as he led his people further into the abyss. Section 5. Blood on the altar, the price of apostasy. Manasseh's reign of terror lasted for 55 years, the longest of any king of Judah. But his reign, though long, was not without consequence. The prophet's warnings, so carelessly ignored, would soon come to pass. The Assyrian Empire, under whose shadow Manasseh had sought power, would become the instrument of Judah's punishment. King Esarhaddon of Assyria, seeking to consolidate his control over the region, marched on Judah. Jerusalem, once considered impregnable, fell to the Assyrian war machine. The city was sacked, the temple plundered, and Manasseh himself was taken captive. He was bound in chains, his royal robes replaced with the rough-spun garments of a prisoner, and marched back to Babylon, a trophy of war in the hands of his captors. Section 6. Like father, like son, the brief, bitter reign of Amon. Manasseh's reign, though marked by tragedy and bloodshed, did not end with his death. His son Amon ascended the throne, inheriting a kingdom scarred by his father's sins. But Amon, instead of learning from his father's mistakes, followed in his footsteps. He embraced the same idols, consulted the same mediums, and offered the same sacrifices. For 2 short years, Amon continued the legacy of his father, perpetuating the cycle of idolatry and oppression. But his reign, unlike his father's, would be tragically cut short. Amon, like so many tyrants before him, fell victim to a palace coup, assassinated by his own officials, a testament to the instability and fear that his reign had engendered. Section 7. Echoes of the past, lessons from a fallen kingdom. The story of Manasseh and Amon is a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the dangers of straying from the path of righteousness. It is a story of power and corruption, of idolatry and bloodshed, of the terrible consequences that await those who turn their backs on the divine. But it is also a story of redemption, of the possibility of repentance and forgiveness, even in the face of unimaginable evil. For Manasseh, in the depths of his despair, in the solitude of his Babylonian prison, experienced a profound change of heart. He humbled himself before Yahweh, repenting of his sins, acknowledging the error of his ways. The scriptures tell us that Yahweh heard his prayer, that he forgave his sins and restored him to his throne in Jerusalem. Section 8. A timeless mirror, Manasseh's legacy in the modern world. The story of Manasseh, though rooted in the distant past, holds profound relevance for us today. It serves as a timeless mirror, reflecting the human capacity for both good and evil, for faith and for folly. It reminds us that power, when sought for its own sake, corrupts, and that true leadership lies in serving something greater than oneself. In a world grappling with its own demons, with the allure of materialism, the pursuit of power, and the seductive whispers of falsehoods, the story of Manasseh serves as a stark reminder of the importance of seeking truth, of standing firm in our convictions, and of heeding the warnings of those who call us back to the path of righteousness. It is a story that continues to resonate across the centuries, a timeless testament to the enduring power of faith, repentance, and the possibility of redemption, even in the face of unimaginable darkness.